Hey, guess what?
What?
The band's off. We can talk about United again. Welcome to episode 11 of Do You Know the Score? I'm Jordan.
And I'm Gavin.
And we're back once again with the Renegade Master uh, to discuss this weekend's football, bit of football news, all that good stuff. How was your football weekend, Gavin?
It was very good. I spent the weekend down in St. Petersburg playing with the Florida Orchestra, so I was following along on my phone, sat in the car park for a few games, just following along from there. Whatever you need to do, right? Whatever you need to do.
Yeah, I can't afford a Sky subscription, so I was looking through a Dixon's window at the teletext.
The teletext. Wow. There's a blast from the past. Let's start with Liverpool. Routine. It was a routine game. Liverpool are looking really good. I was very happy with all of that. That was it was a shame. I don't know if do you know about the Luis Diaz situation? His parents got kidnapped.
I do not.
Yeah, parents got kidnapped, so the news came through. So he didn't. It was over in Colombia, so he didn't play. Diogo Jota played instead. So when the first goal went in, when Jota scored that one, ran over to the sideline, got Luis Diaz's shirt and held it up, which I thought was a really nice touch. So at the moment, the news is that his mum's been returned, but his dad is still missing. So yeah, that's scary
Heavy.
situation. That is a scary situation.
Yeah.
But we won 3-0. It was a great game. The fourth goal went in from, I think it was Gravenberch, but offside by a country mile. It was offside. So no, that was a weird one. The linesman didn't see it. There was no flag. It was the VAR that got involved and quite rightly deemed it as offside. But I would have thought the the assistant referee should have caught that one down the line. But
so VAR can notice these things then
in certain games.
Software upgrade.
But we'll come back to that for a later game or two.
Oh dear.
Yes. I didn't think much to Nottingham Forest. They set up with a deep five at the back, I think, and tried to contain us. But when you got players playing as well as our team did, especially those midfield guys, Szoboszlai and McAllister, incredible signings. For us to have only spent 60 million on a midfield and recoup that with selling just two players, in Henderson and who else was the other person we sold?
Fabinho.
That's his name. Yeah, to only have sold those two and to get this midfield in to regenerate, I think it's a fantastic job. I really hope we push on like this. This is the team. I said I was critical of Van Dijk. The other episodes, was it 2 episodes ago? Last
Something
episode,
like that,
I can't remember. Where I was asking for the old one back, and the last couple of games, he's actually shown himself to be really good again. So I don't like the inconsistency of him. Let's hope that the one that's just turned up now is the one that keeps going, a leader on the field. So yeah, good game, liked it.
Absolutely. I was had to watch West Ham play Everton and watch your game. But I kept in touch with him on your game on the old apps. But Everton West Ham, brilliant performance from Everton.
Yeah.
They're gonna need all the points they can get in the minute.
It seems like, yeah.
But we'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, I thought it was a really solid performance from them. There wasn't it wasn't flashy or anything like that. But it was a really good sort of cat and mouse game between them and West Ham. Thought both of them, pretty much counteracted each other very well. But at the end of the day, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, great opportunity, took it. Everton, man, they're starting to piece something together that can keep them, I think, bottom mid-table.
Yeah.
They're not going to set the world on fire.
No.
That's not their job. But survival, punishment pending, or whatever happens with that aside, I think that they've found the chemistry to create something now that I think will cause teams problems. I don't think they're gonna, like I said, don't think they're gonna get more than mid to low table and stuff. But if you're an Everton fan, must be pleased with what's been going on the pitch at least.
Yeah, for sure. It seems to have coincided with Dominic Calvert-Lewin coming back from injury. We talked early on in the season. I was saying about how defensively they were sound. They just couldn't create in the final third. And since Calvert-Lewin's come back, they've managed to find that. I think my only concern would be what happens later down the line if he gets another injury or a ban or something. That could be a dodgy period because they don't see, as they've shown at the beginning of the season, they don't seem to have a replacement for him. And it's not just banging in the goals. It's creating the opportunities up there and giving them more confidence on the ball going forward. But if he can stay injury free, or they can find someone to replace him if needed, I think same as you. I think they're gonna keep charging up the table.
They've got that Beto kid, I think he's called, but Calvert-Lewin seems to fit what Sean Dyche wants to do better.
Sure,
and he probably is a better striker, to be fair. Or at least a better Premier League striker in the sense that this is Beto's first season, and he's come from Portuguese league, I think. So it's probably not, you don't normally hit the ground running in this league anyway. So yeah, I'm nothing but positivity on the pitch for Everton. But yeah, good on them. West Ham, like I said, they were worth the salt. They did try. They weren't, there weren't no slouches in this game, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying about Everton. As we've seen with games this weekend, with the big four, shall we say, they are head and shoulders above most other teams. So when Everton play those teams, which, to be fair to them, so far this season, they've played a bunch of those big teams. It's not going to look good for them, but they can compete and mix it up with all the teams in from like the lower European places down. I wouldn't say that they're going to walk over Everton at all.
No. Team that definitely aren't walkovers at the minute. Top of the league, Tottenham Hotspur. Solid performance again. Very much like when they played Luton the other week. Didn't seem to break much of a sweat. I think towards the end when Palace got a late goal and a lot of added time was added on Friday night. I think that it looked a little bit, but overall over the 90 minutes, I mean, this is phenomenal. Someone did make an interesting point though. I read on online was we're talking about 10 games in now, 10 games in now, and most people, right, will have a nice sort of beginning. Solskjaer, for example, had a very good first 10 games for Manchester United. I think now we've been praising Spurs, and rightfully praising Spurs. I think they've been phenomenal since Postecoglou's taken over, and since I learned how to pronounce his name, and since when Harry Kane leaving and them changing and becoming this new format of Spurs. The question's going to be what happens moving forward when people start to maybe potentially figure out the formula to play against Spurs, injuries, that kind of thing. At the minute, like I said, flying high and more than capable of maintaining it. Just need to, like I said, I just want to see a bit more about what the long term is before I start putting them in definite, I think it's fair to put them in the title race now, but what happens after Christmas, when the crunch comes and all the, people start to slip away and some people start to break away from the pack, will Spurs be one of those? Or whether they're going to be in the top four race?
I think we'll have a better idea of Spurs in the next 5 or 6 games, running up to Christmas. There's a thing over here especially with college American football, the ranking systems, because not all teams play all the other teams, but there's one big league table with every single school in it. And one of the factors is obviously the wins, but when you have a bunch of teams all with only one loss and all the other games are wins, it's difficult to then stack them. So they look at how well you won and also what they call the strength of schedule, which means how many ranked teams did you play? How strong were they?
Yeah.
And I think who you beat. I think we'll have a better idea of Spurs from that perspective by the time we get to Christmas. Because looking at who they've played so far, and yet they are unbeaten, which is an incredible achievement. They've had 2 challenges, I would say, so far. Arsenal, which was a draw. They didn't lose to Arsenal, but that was the one big team. And the only other one I can see on here then is against us, which was the game that shall not be mentioned. So those are the 2 games where they had a tough time. All the rest are lower league teams. Whereas coming up, I'm just looking at the list now. They got Chelsea, it should be another easy one for them next. Then they got Wolves away. That's going to be tough. Villa at home. That's going to be tough. You lot. That's going to be tough. West Ham at home in December 7th. That should be okay. Then they're hosting Newcastle. So I think by that point, let's see. But if they keep playing the way they're doing, there's no reason why they can't just keep kicking on.
Absolutely.
There's the only thing that can be said, just to play devil's advocate, to make it a bit more of a conversation so we don't just give them the trophy right now. Strength of schedule could be the only thing that could be questioned of them so far.
You mentioned them. Let's talk about them. Chelsea.
Yeah, go on then.
Losing to the Brentford Bees. If we're going to be, since we're talking American sports, let's do that. But Brentford, man. I mean, Chelsea, come on.
Yeah.
Like, you're making me look bad here. Like, last time, for anyone who watched the last episode, I was praising Chelsea. They started to find the formula. They started to look good.
Mm-hmm.
Things started ticking, man. And then they went, hold my beer.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I don't know what to say. I mean, it was just calamitous, wasn't it?
I know. Yeah, I mean, will the real Slim Chelsea please stand up? You know, which one is it? This is back to the other one. I think their second goal, Brentford's second goal, I think sums up Chelsea. I mean, the goalkeeper was out fishing the ball over the top, and then it wasn't necessarily that I'm criticizing. It's what happened in the following 15, 20 seconds. The goalkeeper's rushing back, and he's not going to slide tackle in. He's not going to risk that. But where were the other Chelsea players? There was none. There was a wide shot, and you could see 2 Brentford players about to score, a goalkeeper on the floor, and then one Chelsea player jogging back. That's just disgraceful in that situation. You're only 1-0 down. You're Chelsea. You're at Stamford Bridge, and you're not sprinting back. Even if you're not going to make it, you've still got to put the effort in, because someone could slip up. We saw that with Chelsea when Steven Gerrard slipped over when we lost the league. These things can happen. You've got to be in the position. You can't be just stood on the halfway line going, oh, well, there's the second goal.
Well, yeah, but even in that instance, Gerrard got up, and other Liverpool players, they ran hell for leather to try and get, was it Demba Ba?
I think so, yeah.
Just try and stop Demba Ba from scoring at least.
Yeah.
They went, Chelsea just looked defeated. They really did. Like, and I don't mean obviously in the score sheet. I mean just physically, body language wise, just ruined.
Yeah.
It's going to be a rough season. I'm now no longer going to be so quick to say, is this are we turning the corner with Chelsea now? Because they're obviously showing there's the level of inconsistency that's still there. And they're not looking like they're going to improve in it. Brentford, fair play to them, took them to, put them to the sword.
Brentford play like a team. Whatever that level's at, wherever it's at, they play like a team. Chelsea have got some incredible individuals that put up these incredible performances, but then 60-70% of the team let everyone else down.
Yeah. And Brentford aren't slouches either, so
No.
let's be fair.
No.
Let's be fair. They were good for the win, and Chelsea's still struggling.
Yeah.
Still struggling, and I guess the last couple of weeks have been just a bit of a reprieve from the struggle, I guess, but it's still certainly embedded in that club.
Sure.
Let's talk about Arsenal
Mm.
and demolishing
Yeah.
Sheffield United. I mean, I looking at this when you look at the schedule and stuff, and you see that game, I didn't think anything other than
No, of
an
course.
Arsenal win.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely hat trick by Nketiah.
Fantastic. Great
You know,
performance by him.
yeah, game of his life so far must be
Mm-hmm.
probably the best performance he's put in for that.
Probably, but he has been playing well recently.
Oh
He's
yeah,
been there and thereabouts. But he had a spring in his step for that game, and yeah, it looked incredible.
absolutely. And I think that there's no doubt in my mind that like Arsenal are still capable of,
Mm-hmm.
again, this is a Spurs thing. I'm going to be consistent with what I said last week, which turned out I was inconsistent from the week before. But I'm going to remain consistent. Just say, like, again, it depends now for me about that. Yes, they beat Sheffield United. They should have beat Sheffield United.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think there's anything in that. But like last week with the game against Chelsea, their underbelly showed a bit, and they're not going to do that with Sheffield United. You know what I mean? That Sheffield aren't in a position to put any club under serious pressure at the minute. They just don't look like the kind of
No.
unit that can do that. So again, when Arsenal keep playing, the top clubs, when this Christmas fixture list comes in and the crunch happens, and we get to the final furlong, what goes on then?
Mm. Yeah, Sheffield for me are probably the only team in the league that look like they don't really belong. I said at the start of the season that there was strength throughout, and I couldn't really see any guaranteed 3-pointers. I'm starting to feel now that whoever rocks up at Sheffield, you're more than likely going to get 3 points. They're starting
Right.
to look like that type of team.
Yeah. Sheffield do look doomed at the minute.
Yeah.
They look like they very easily turned over. I mean, I know when they came up, they lost a lot of the players that got them up.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I mean, Luton and Burnley are in the same boat as you, but Luton and Burnley at least look like they've got some fight in them, whereas like Sheffield United don't look like they've got many different plans, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To get out of these problems. So I don't know, there's a lot of work to be done there.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I don't see them.
I mean, never say never, but I mean, 10 games in, I'm looking at their results now. 0 wins, 1 draw, 9 losses, minus 22 goal difference already. That's a hole you've really got to get out of. And battling against, a really strong league with, really, strong teams throughout. So I can see that one being a difficult. They're going to have a difficult time now.
Yeah, I completely agree. Speaking of another game of note, then let's talk about Newcastle and Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Yeah.
So Newcastle taking their foot off the gas a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I've been praising them since the PSG victory.
Yeah.
But they hit a bit of a brick wall against Borussia Dortmund during the week, and now they draw with Wolves on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? Right? I still see them being in and around the mix, even with these little drop-offs.
Yeah, I mean, I really I fancy Wolves. I think they're a good team, so I think that was a tough game. But yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't know what it is about Newcastle at the moment.
They look, but I still believe in them. Like, when you like, I know, like in this, there are some teams where they slip off and stuff, and then I'm kind of like doom and gloom on them. But for some reason with Newcastle, there's just something about the way that they are, even when in the face of loss. Because like that Borussia Dortmund game, for example, was brilliant. Like I watched it after the Man City game. I put it on like after the game had happened. And it was just exciting, even knowing the result. I knew it was a really good game of football, and again, even against Wolves, they played really well. They did. It's just it didn't pan out for them. Where rather than you seeing glaring weaknesses or glaring holes in what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The couple of things about the Newcastle game that kind of stood out for me. So one thing I really didn't like is the penalty, the dive from the Newcastle player. It looked like a clear penalty in real time, so I can see why it was called and then replay. But on replay, you can quite clearly see that the point where you thought the contact was, there was no contact. The guy jumped over him and rolled on the floor, and then they're going back and forth on the replay to see about was there any contact at all on the other foot, and they're just desperately trying to find, like, oh, did he knock into that blade of grass that knocked into the guy's studs so that we can justify this penalty? And it went back and forth. It shouldn't have been given a penalty, but it's this thing about a decision on the field and then the replay, and they don't want to go against the referees for because they don't want to embarrass them or whatever. They got something wrong, but that they should be there to help. And for me, that should not have been given a penalty. The call was for the slide and the initial contact. You can clearly see on the replay that there was no contact at that point, and there was just a little bit of follow through where he might have clipped part of his shoe, but the dude was already tumbling to the floor by that point. Yeah. So, and I don't know. I saw something once. Was it Wilson that scored? I think Callum Wilson took the penalty and scored. And did you see his celebration as he walked away to the away fans, where he did that, like a little dive thing?
Yeah,
I mean, what? Yeah, be a bit more sensitive. That was cheeky. I mean, it wasn't like when Robbie Fowler got down on his knees and sniffed the line that once. No. But it was still a bit cheeky for me, that one.
No, yeah. But
the other thing I want to say about the game, like I said, I do fancy Wolves. I think they're a good side. I think they could push for top half for sure. However, the injury to Neto, we pulled up with a hamstring. I haven't heard how bad that is, whether it's a long injury, but that be crucial for them. Hwang is a great player, and I think Hwang and Neto together is what makes them exciting going forward. With one of them out, that could be an issue for them, depending on how long he's out for.
Yeah. Let's say we'll see what happens. Again, I think Wolves are definitely a club that are in European contention, for the Conference League, Europa League sort of level, I think.
Let's see. I mean, they're still down in 12th at the moment. They need to push up. They've got to overtake a number of teams here, especially ones that we're criticizing as hopeless. And let's be fair, when Wolves are sitting below those, let's see.
We'll see. But I think they're the type of team that can capitalize over these teams that are above them.
Could do
easily.
Yeah.
Speaking of one of them, it's back, baby.
You're gonna do it.
Oh, we're doing it, and we're doing it well. LL Cool J, Manchester City went to Old Glacier Stadium to face Glazer United. And let's put it this way, right? Until Jim Ratcliffe or the Saudi player comes back from injury, this team of Glazers is going to go, they're just never going to win a game again, because goalkeeper Glazer was not very good. Defensive Glazers, not very good either. Midfield Glazers, they were awful. And the front three Glazers, what were they playing at?
You're having fun with this, aren't you?
You get what I'm doing with this? Do you get it? Because
I get it.
Oh my days! I mean, I text you after 10 minutes. I remember texting you. 10, 15 minutes in.
Yeah.
I said, we're losing this. And the reason I text you that was because we were misplacing passes.
Mm-hmm.
We looked slow.
Yeah.
And I thought that it felt like one of these games where Man City's not creating anything.
Yeah.
And then, like, we just owned the game with nothing.
From the second half.
Yeah, but even to be fair, though, even in the first half, you sort of twig, we don't really need to do much here.
Mm.
We barely got out of second gear the whole game.
Sure. Yeah.
At all.
It wasn't. What I'm saying is, it wasn't until the second half when you then pulled away.
Oh yeah. But I felt zero fear from maybe 20 minutes in.
Mm-hmm. It felt like two kids having a fight. One of them's a really tall kid, and the other one's a little kid. And the tall kid's just got his hand on the other one's head and just holding him at distance and just going, no. That was the first half. Then the second half, you moved your hand and just started pummeling him. Yeah. That's what it felt like.
I think, like I say, it's interesting when you've got a makeshift back four. Why would you play out from the back?
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Right? You put themselves under unnecessary pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Ten Hag might as well have given us the 3 points at halftime when he took Amrabat off and left Eriksen, McTominay, and bringing on Mason Mount
and keeping Bruno wide.
That's nonsense. I mean,
yeah.
And like I say, I know that there are injury issues at that club. I get that, right? But when when you're in this situation, and this was a criticism I had when you had your injury season, the one where all your defenders decided to just get broken.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you carried on playing the same type of football, even though the personnel wasn't there. And I criticized Klopp and said he should change that.
Sure.
I'm going to do the same thing with Ten Hag now. I'm going to say that I'm going to start criticizing Ten Hag on this because his decision making in this has been terrible. I know, right, that Johnny Evans, Harry Maguire, Dalot, and who was the other player in centre back? Lindelof. He had Lindelof on as a fullback.
Right. Yeah,
right?
That's right. You know
what I mean? So you've had to makeshift your back line.
Mm-hmm.
Against an essentially injury-free Man City, where we've got pretty much everyone back.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only player missing was Ake because of the suspension.
Mm-hmm.
So you're doing that. Then you've got Amrabat and you've got McTominay there as cover, right? And you insist on doing things that back four and that midfield pairing can't do.
Yeah.
And expect it to work against a club that, with the skill, with the levels that are at that team, at full pelt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I understand this whole thing of like, because I've seen people posting it about like, the Glazers are the problem. It's bedded in our club, and dudes, you're just not a good. It's just not a good team at all. And there's a reason why we haven't spoken about this on the podcast. The only reason we're doing it now is because it was us that did it. But if you're genuinely looking at this team, right, and I've got to admit the pettiness and the patheticness of this club really showed through towards the end with Bruno. Yeah. Gary Neville on our commentary actually said when I don't know if it was him or if it was Anthony, because Anthony was throwing hands, completely uncharacteristic as well.
No, it was Anthony that thought the other player, the City player, was his wife. That's what happened.
Jesus Christ.
Just saying it as it is. If United are going to play these players, they're going to get criticism for it, and especially when they show their violent side to millions of people. It's going to get called out.
Well, even Gary Neville was on commentary going, refs should just send him off.
Yeah.
Do you mean this is pathetic? This is petty. This is pointless. And it was. And Bruno was doing it as well, throwing his hands in the air.
Yeah.
But like, he's a captain. That's your captain.
Yeah.
And that's the captain that fans endorse.
Yeah.
If that was my captain, I would be livid. right? If I had a captain like that at Man City, if for some weird reason, like I know they're not entirely comparable, but like Mario Balotelli or something like that back in the day was made captain of the club, the way he used to act, the impetulant, childish way that he used to act on the pitch, right? I would be furious. And, you know, let's do the banter phrase. This is Man United we're talking about here. But it is. You know what I mean? Like, there is still that sort of level of, respect or whatever, the prestige of the club and stuff. And you've got an absolute pathetic child like that as your captain. Give over. Like, genuinely awful performance. Terrible. And they let Man City own them. Just let it happen. Roll back. Tactically inept. Performances were terrible. No one was putting in a proper shift. And then when they were 3-0 past, then they decided to start kicking us and like falling over and being, you know, I can imagine them. They're feeling a bit aggrieved by the penalty at the beginning of the game as well. I've seen worse happen in a free kick or a corner scenario in the box, to be fair.
Yeah.
And nothing happened. So I get where you're aggrieved. But by letter of the law, he's still, Højlund is still dragging down Rodri.
I think dragging is a bit of a strong term. There was a hand there, but it wasn't a dragging down.
He dragged him down like we're dragging Man United now. Dragging him. But no, you put yourself in this stupid position.
Yeah, you give the officials the opportunity to call it. It was weak. It was a weak call. We saw other games this weekend where a lot worse had happened with the pushing and pulling, and nothing was done. The other issue I'd want to bring up on that particular call is the fact that the ball was nowhere near that. So when someone touches someone else and they fall over and the ball's like 5 feet in the air, I'm not sure how the referees can correlate the two. It wasn't like he was being impeded to the play. An off-the-ball incident has to have a much higher bar than just touching each other and one player falls over. That should be called if the header is on and he's about to go for it and there's contact and then he goes down. Then okay, but when there's that much of a distance, I think that's even more. The other thing about that I just want to bring up and get your opinion on is how favorable that decision was to you as a team, and how it seems like from the outside this season particularly decisions have been more favorable to Man City than not. So when something goes to a video replay like that, you think, okay, well, you can now see, but yet still, I'm just from your perspective, I'm not saying for 1 minute that these things are being done like that, but can you see how some people might feel that there's an agenda for Man City at the moment?
No.
Why not?
Because there is no way that there is an agenda for our club.
I'm not saying there is. I'm just saying, can you see with what's happening, these little drips and stuff, that some fans might be, like you said, they feel aggrieved about that penalty. There's others as well.
Any level of common sense would say no.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, right, this is me saying that over the years, Manchester City have been on the receiving end of terrible decisions, like every team. We've always talked about this. What goes around comes around. I could easily say, well, last season there was that Rashford goal that shouldn't have happened because of the offside, interfering with play, everything like that, right? But for people to assume that like there would be intentional favoritism, or to even feel that in any way, shape, or form, use your brain. Because at the end of the day, and we'll talk about it shortly, there's a reason why, like, UEFA investigate us to the hell and back. The Premier League have investigating us now to hell and back, right? There's a reason for it, right? And it's that we're not liked. We're just generally not liked by the establishment at all. There's a whole host of reasons why Manchester City are scrutinized more so on the pitch and off the pitch than any other club. Some valid, some extreme.
It could be.
This is my opinion.
Yeah.
Right? But I can't see this how anyone can genuinely look at the way that we've been looked at by the Premier League and by all football authorities, and then also think, oh, there's something going on here where they're trying to let them win. Like they're trying to give them.
I can give not for what I'm about to say is not my own opinions, right?
Oh, it better not be.
Well, you know my opinions on this. I'm just
the
trying
same
to
as mine, everyone.
I'm just trying to put it across how it can be seen from an outside source, right? And I hear you on what you're saying about those things, and I'll bring them into a second. We've both said swings and roundabouts. There's going to be times, because I've said myself when I've been bitter about stuff with Liverpool where decisions have gone against us, we're going to get some good decisions coming for us in the future, right? Everyone's going to have these peaks and valleys. It just seems that City at the moment are on an extended purple patch, that they can do no wrong. There's nothing at all. So we'll talk about Everton in a second, but you're talking about the investigations into Man City. There seems to be a there, but no one, for whatever reason, in the FA or FIFA or whatever, can find that. And from the outside, it can look suspicious that it's not happening. It happens for others. They can find others, but City not. Almost, and again, I'm trying to play devil's advocate here and show other people's opinions, not my own, but it can be seen that City are being protected, not because they're hated, but because they're liked. There are charges, there is this, there is a there, but let's keep it quiet, wait for the statute of limitations, let's see if they can put in some type of legal challenge that we can go, yeah, there we go, we'll dismiss this, and protect them so that they don't have that, at the same time as the referees, and again, not my opinion, right? The referees and the Referees Association being kinder to you than to others, the penalty being one incident right now. So I'm just saying, you're in a purple patch at the moment where, especially now that Everton have had their recommendation handed down, people are going, well, yeah, but, and it seems like the what can be perceived as the favorite boys of the Premier League, yet again, all these seasons of doing this are still getting away with it.
Right.
Can you see where people come from? Not saying that it's my opinion or your opinion, but it can be seen that way as well.
I struggle to, because one charge, one simple charge is easier to litigate than 115 individual charges where the charges. Right? That's maths.
Sure.
That's maths, right? So you can't look at both, like we've talked about this, I think, in private. And I'll sort of give my point of view again on this, right? You can't say that just because it's an FFP violation or it is something to do with FFP, that the punishment's the same, the scenario's the same, the speed in which you get to a conclusion is the same. You can't, because they're all different. Just because it's under one banner doesn't make it the same thing. So this whataboutism doesn't apply.
The banner is the issue, though. That's the issue, because it's been announced that Everton breached FFP. That's it. That's your banner. And what they're saying is a breach of FFP is 12 points. And so that's it. They're not saying that they breached FFP in this way and this is how bad it was. So therefore, because it's that bad, it's 12 points. It's just a blanket. It's like, a crime, whether it be murder or whatever, they've committed murder. So it's a minimum 12 years in prison. You can't say, but different murders. Murder has a minimum thing. No, but what I'm saying is because the murder charge carries a minimum sentence. So what they're saying is that the murder charge here is the FFP violation, so it carries a minimum of 12 points, unless they define it differently. So we can't as fans say, but our opinion is that the FFP, that the charges that they've done is less than this one, when we don't know the details because they've not been told to us.
But that's an irresponsibility from the people giving the information out.
I don't disagree. What I'm saying is we can't jump on it and say that it's therefore this.
No, but I don't think that people can also the same thing, jump on this and go, therefore it's this either. Like, because the nuance is an important thing in the world, right? these ideas of how things work are important, right?
Sure.
What things mean is important. How things operate, right? Just to go back to one thing you said a second ago about waiting for statute of limitations, you can't do that in this particular scenario with the FA and the Premier League, right? That law that's in place, by the way, and isn't something like people act like it's some sort of UEFA lawyers could have done things quicker. UEFA lawyers could have put more effort into their case, right? You know what I do for a living, but outside of this, right?
Yeah.
If we have deadlines and we've got to supply things at certain times, we have to do that. And if we don't, we lose. UEFA didn't do that, right? So as much as it can be people going, all they do is tie people up in litigation until a statute of limitations goes through, or until this can go away, or until that there's still another legal team playing against this other legal team, and they still have to hit their due diligence, and they still have to do the things that they need to do to get these things across the line. If they fail at that, that's not the other side's fault. That's not Manchester City's fault. Similarly, if Manchester City can't provide what they need to provide, then they get found guilty, and there it is. But that you can't. I still can't fathom why people seem to think that I know you've explained it, right, but it still doesn't compute with me why people would think that it's the same thing, or even say, well, it needs to be dealt with in a certain way because we know for a fact that this is the case. You don't. No. Wait, we know nothing, right? We know what Manchester City have been accused of. We don't know whether Manchester City can refute it or not, right? And that's probably what's happening at the minute, and why it's gone quiet, because it's litigation. In litigation, when you don't publicly talk about, you don't publicly talk about this stuff. Keep that in. You don't talk about this stuff though.
No, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? In what I do for a living, I do not publicly discuss what's going on in it because it can affect the case. It can affect the outcome of stuff.
Exactly.
Right? You aren't like this football world, right? You people on Twitter and on social media apps and people who are pundits and all sorts of stuff. You're not privy to this information on purpose, right? And that's from both ends.
Yeah.
Because you like the FA haven't, like, when they released their list of the charges, did they list why they came to that conclusion?
Exactly. No, they didn't.
No, because that's okay. So now we've got this thing at the minute with Everton. Everton have made one big cock up, right? One massive screw up. That's easier to do when you submit numbers and those numbers don't correlate with the number that they say you can't go below this number, right? And they go, oh, we've gone below the number. Oh, well, I'm sorry then. We're going to have to figure out what the punishment is. Okay, before you do that then, Everton, I guarantee you, have a legal team behind the scenes trying to lessen the inevitable punishment that they're going to have. And they'll either be successful in that or they won't. Manchester City have to go through 115 charges. Some of them are small. Some of them are tiny. Some of them are, pretty big deals. If they're if what they're accused of is correct.
Isn't it something like some of them are like pitch size or grass type or something nonsense like that, isn't
it? Yes and no, right? So when the document went out, when they actually submitted the document to court, they put certain rule provisions in of what the rule Man City broke was. People then naturally went and looked and see what specifically they are, because actually, again, just to prove my point, all the Premier League released was they broke this rule from 2018 This rule from 20, and all it was the number, the code of what the rule was. So people had to go look. When people looked, they realized that the rule book said, I think it was something like grass height was one, and illegal grass height and something nonsense like that. And we were like, are we genuinely getting done? And then they amended the document and sent it back out, because what they'd done is they'd gotten the rule book wrong from the year before. So in the, for example, it's a 2015 season. Rule 5B was this, but what they was the grass thing. But what they meant was the financial rule that's now 5B.
Sure.
In the 2016 maybe, you know what? I know this is going to sound mental to most people, but could the reason be that you heard nothing is because they've passed the information back and forth to the lawyers, and now there isn't anything?
I think it could be more towards your argument myself, that there's so many charges to go through, it's going to take time to get through them. I think that's probably more of the sensible version of that.
No, but you know, there are so many reasons, the scenarios that are afoot here, and none of us know.
Yeah,
so and I don't think it's fair to correlate the two, because
So sorry about the technical issues there, but we are back, and I think Jordan had something to say about some finances or something.
Might have mentioned a thing or two.
What we're to get back on track. So what we're, correct me if I'm wrong, but what we were saying was there's a lot of talk about what if, what about this, what about that, a lot of whataboutism, and there's the Everton stuff, which has been defined and sorted, whereas City, there's 115. There's it's not been sorted. Is it gone quiet? Is it still being litigated? Is it finished now? Who knows what it is? And then there's also the discussion of the nature of the charges for Man City. What do they entail? No one really knows exactly what's gone on with any of this stuff.
You also have to take into account what's going to end up sticking, right?
So
let's say, for example, like I said, 115 alleged charges, by the way. 115 charges have been levied on him, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, some big, some small. Right? What if they can only prove the small ones?
Yeah.
Then do you know what I mean? But if it's only the small ones, they've broken FFP rules, so it's got to be 12 points.
And that's what I'm going to say. That's what I'm talking about.
That's what we're getting to, is that there isn't. You have to think about these things without the vitriol and the anger of your dislike for the way that City have done things, for the fact that it's money from the Middle East, for the fact that it's potentially dodgy, the fact that it may be fully dodgy. That I think I've said to you, I think that we bend the rules to the point where the rules are splintering, but we don't break them.
Could be.
And I think that's a very fair assessment of how Man City and, you know, like Chelsea do at the minute, where they're doing their transfer activity, and the way that they give contracts is based on the old American sports thing, where you have a salary cap. So, like, for example, LeBron James gets like $100 million a year, in total or something, but it's split over 8 years. It's probably a bigger, different contract than that, but that's the theory behind it. That spreads the cost in over seasons, so it gives them a larger salary cap, which means they can sign more players who are better, who are worse, etc., etc. To try and formulate that team. Chelsea are doing that. People are going, oh, we shouldn't be allowed to do 8-year contracts. Well, why? There's not a rule that says you can't do 8-year contracts.
Personally, I'm more than happy for them to do that, because what I don't think they've worked out is the fact that these contracts where you split not necessarily the money you're paying out, but the allowance for each year. So let's just say you're allowed 100 whatever each time. If you say, all right, rather than 100 now, I'm going to put down 20 over the next 5. That now means that next year you only get 80. The year after, instead of getting a fresh 100. And that's then going to continue. If you keep adding more and putting more onto next seasons, you're going to have less to spend each season. So I'm more than happy for Chelsea to do that. So apologies again for the technical issues there. It looks like there's a problem with the Zoom cloud server and we're getting thrown off. So we're back again. So the last thing we talked about on that break was me having to go at Chelsea for them staggering these payments. So what I was saying was, say you have 100 that you can spend, 100 whatevers you can spend each year. And instead of spending the 100, what you're going to do is you're going to spend 100, but now you're going to say, I'm going to put 20 on each year. That now means that next year you can only spend 80 and so on and so forth. You keep loading up your credit card like that. And instead of spending 100 now and just 100, now you're going to spend 500 and or no, you're going to put 600, say. You're going to say 600, but they're all going to be 20s and they're going to be split over years. You now loaded up your other years. You can't spend in the future unless you find another loophole. So please do stock up your credit cards, Chelsea, because you're going to get found out eventually.
This is the thing, though. This is the kind of language that I disagree with, where you just use the word loophole. It's not a loophole. You can't break a rule that doesn't exist. You can't. Whether you like the rules or not, right? I don't. They're not sitting there going, how do we circumvent this? They're sitting there going, how do we maximize our buying potential? Or we have these restrictions, okay, let's work within those restrictions. And they find their way to work through the restrictions. People think that loophole is such a negative connotation on it.
But it works in this one because how much are you allowed to spend each year? And it has to be a percentage of your income or whatever it is, which is what City are arguing, that there's that the income comes from this and not from that, so we're good to spend it. So there is a rule that says you have to spend this much. And all right, if you don't like loophole, they're circumventing say you can only use this much by saying, we'll then offset it over future years. But like I said, I'm happy for them to do it because it's messing them up for future years.
Yeah, but do you agree then that the way that American sports works is loopholing, because you still have to fit your squads into salary caps? So offering salary caps and putting them over, spreading them over 8 years, spreading them over 4 years, and all that sort of stuff, making them unrestricted free agents, etc. Does that then make that loopholes? Is that circumventing the rules?
No, because is set up like that. That's set up like that. The rules in American sports are that the salary caps. The MLS, for example, this is very, very specific what contracts you can and can't offer, whereas the Premier League, it's open season. However, they try to not have it as open season, so it can be a bit more competitive by saying, especially recently, you can only spend this much in a year, in a calendar year or the season or whatever it is.
Yeah, so you fit this, but that's your salary cap, though. Like, that's your equivalent of a salary cap over here, is the framework you have to be in of a net loss to fit in with FFP, right?
But it's it's designed over 1 year. It's not a system that's set up to assist people or teams who want to load up oncoming season's debt already and tie it to current players.
So would you not then say that if it's because it's season on season, then that any team that signs a player for more than a year in a contract then is circumventing? Because they're spreading. Because why is spreading the cost over 8 years just because it's double what the standard contract of 3 or 4 years is? Why does that then? You know what I mean? Why does that then become circumventing the rules when everything is within these? If it's within this parameter of it's a year or it's a season by season basis, more than one season as a contract, then you could argue is circumventing the rules.
I see exactly what you're saying, and I think the difference in general terms with contracts and this is the fact that if you take all those players and put them into standard 3-4 year contracts, and you can say it's standard because that's the vast majority of contracts.
Yeah.
Very rarely do you get an 8-9 year contract. And if you then adjust it so that it now fits, you've circumvented the system. Let's put it that way. Not necessarily the rules, because there's no rule that says they can only be for 4 years. And then you find, a way around it. That's not the rule that they're finding a way around. What they're doing is they're taking a normal contract and making it non-standard to then be able to have those players to commit money to it. That they should. The rule is in place so that teams don't spend that much money. Chelsea, all they're doing is just spending it over more. So it means that their books are fine for each year on year, which again, is fine with me because I know that it then means that in 3-4 years' time, if they keep doing this, they're not going to be able to sign anyone because those years are already full up with a contract from Mudryk and whoever.
Yeah, but that's if that's their business decision, that's their business decision. I don't think that it's
you
know what I mean.
No, I don't disagree. Go for it.
I think football clubs need to be able to run as they want to run because at the end of the day, like, you know, bring them up. Manchester United, they've been operating at a debt and they've got like a 600 odd £1 million loss, and none of this is.
That made me think. That made me think. The Everton situation where there was whatever they've done now means that there's a 12-point deduction on the way, possibly. It's not been confirmed.
That's possibly the recommended punishment by someone
exactly
in the Premier League, but it's not actually the Premier League's decision either. It's an independent panel.
So it could get changed. But if we then say that, my concern is then that means that a breach of financial fair play, whatever level, means a points deduction, right? And whether it be a point, 12 points, 50 points, 100 points of demotion out of the league, whatever it is, we're now saying that's the dartboard onto which you're going to throw your dart of punishment. And I don't like that myself, because it now means that if Man City get charged with breaking the rule because they had the wrong type of grass, I know that isn't one of the ones, but let's just say, what is that a point? Is that what we're saying now? Is that now a point? What Chelsea are doing, if that's now shown, or what United are done with in debt, we're now creating a situation where we're going to get a spotlight on all those teams to see what they're doing to get points deductions. And this is what I wanted to get onto. Because all the amount of charges on City at the moment, I would be staggered if 0 come back. There's going to be 1 or 2, and if we set our stall out with Everton that any breach becomes some kind of points deduction, that's unfair on Man City, because none of you fans, none of your players, none of your recent managers, it's just Pep, isn't it? Since always Pep involved at the time, I can't remember.
No, it's all Mancini and Pellegrini era.
That's right. So Pep, current players, current fans have had nothing to do with this, nothing at all. Yet, if a charge comes down, it's you guys that are suffering with the points deduction. That to me is unfair. Much more sensible would be if you find out that those people that did it. Now we're talking about owners, CEOs, sporting directors, whoever is involved with whatever team at whatever level. Those are the ones that should be punished. Let's strip them of the ability to own clubs. Let's find them an amount that's going to make a difference to them. Let's cause issues for them, like we did for Abramovich when it turned out that he was a part of Putin's oligarchs. Then it was, all right, he can't be an owner of a team anymore. That wasn't punishing Chelsea because they got an owner and there's more money involved and they've moved on. That, to me, is a much better punishment, and that should be the punishment for Everton. If Everton staff higher-ups have created a situation where they've fiddled the books or they've miscommunicated what their finances actually are or lied about them, whatever it is, that has got nothing to do with Dominic Calvert-Lewin or the rest of the team or Sean Dyche or the Everton fans, the thousands that go there every week. And they're the ones that are going to suffer with a 12-point deduction. And that's what I wanted to come on to get your opinion on this whole situation. And that's my opinion. My view isn't the one I showed at the beginning where people are going, yeah, but Man City are being protected. Mine is more of we shouldn't be affecting the fans and the players the way we're doing it.
Yeah. No, like I said, you know my point of view on this, and I've said it multiple times, right? It's got, like, I can't for the life of me understand why so many football fans are also geopolitical experts, financial experts, you know, the wisest of the wise, the smartest of the smart, and they know everything. you've got to understand that, like, the way in which football has always worked has always been fingers and thumbs in pies that they shouldn't be in.
Sure.
Morally, you know, it's all over. It's all over there. I'm currently wearing an Adidas hoodie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm somewhat of a hypocrite for this, because I'm probably wearing something that some child in a Vietnamese factory made. Let's be
Sure.
real.
Yeah.
Right? That's probably where this came from. And, yes, we all have a moral code. Yes, we all have moral decency, and fine. But 90% of what the microphone I'm using, the computer I'm using to record this, the thing that I'm using to hear this, the thing that you're using to hear this, to watch this show. Unfortunately, there's someone, for your convenience, there's someone below that has had it way worse. And that is the unfortunate situation we've got here. So for any idea of puritism in football, I'm sorry, it's always been a lie. It's always been false. Yes, there are varying degrees. Yes, there are varying situations. But that's the point you need to focus on, like the varying degrees. What is actually at fault? Why people are getting, like, why people are, why this investigation's quicker? Why is this investigation? Why did they get this points tally deduction? Maybe why do these people only get a fine? Why, you've got to start thinking about football, these things outside of football, with some level of common sense. And I think that gets lost a lot in the vitriol, and a lot of it gets lost in the banter, and especially the stupid stuff, the way that people talk to each other online, and the way that that's filtered into how people discuss football.
Sure.
Like, Jamie Carragher's instant reaction was, oh, well, if Everton get deducted 15, then Manchester City is going to be, like, shot off the planet. And it's like, why? Why is Everton? 12 points even? Why are Everton getting deducted? Why is it recommended they're getting deducted 12 points? What's led up to that? Is it just we've broken a rule, or what? Or could it be that Everton have had financial issues for a while? Maybe they've been helped. Maybe the COVID thing was, they took the mick out of the COVID stuff, because they came out of COVID with a much higher loss than any other club, and every club, during that period has significant losses. This is part of that.
What you're touching on there, I think, is perfect, and it kind of, we don't know exactly the details. My concern is that if 12 points is the recommendation for what they did, what if 2 or 3 of your charges are on the same level? Because we don't know. And we've set a very dangerous precedent. Now we're saying, say 3 charges of the 115. 115, and we're only saying 3. That's a small fraction. And if it's 12 points, because whoever deems it to be the same as what Everton did. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it is, but let's just say the punishment. 36 points deduction to Man City on the way for recommendation. That's nonsense. But we've set our stall out now by doing that. And maybe we should have just kept quiet on the Everton thing until all current active charges have been dealt with, so that we know, so that we can set some type of bar here. But Mike, I'm concerned we've set it dangerously high with Everton.
Maybe that can also then, just to wrap this up, to put it into like a little point that you were making at the beginning, or maybe that we're setting the stall with the smaller cases, and we're setting a high bar for that, so that when the high case comes and we can, and there's a verdict to be given on that, we can give Manchester City the most violent and vulgar punishment possible by saying, well, 1 is 15, what is 12 points? So here's, do you know what I'm saying? So maybe they're not being protected. Maybe, let's just tinfoil hat it and go, well, maybe they're just planning some big thing that they're using these little charges and stuff, and giving them big outcomes, so that when we get to the big fish that we really want to fry, we can smash them good. And that's as logical as people saying we're being protected and looked after by the big boys.
We can extend that tinfoil hats thing as well and say that they know that that's coming around the corner, so they're getting all the refs to give soft decisions in City's favour to soften the blow, like the penalty shout that wasn't a penalty at the weekend. I mean, as soon as that happened and I realised the ref was Paul Tierney, I thought, of course it is. Of course it's Paul Tierney. But, you know, like Mourinho said, if I speak, I get into trouble. You know, I won't speak. It was, yeah. That's the dude that Klopp had issues with, where he's got a suspended sentence still because he questioned him. And then he rocks up and does that with the penalty.
I mean, it was a penalty.
It was given as a penalty.
Exactly. Absolutely. So it was a penalty. It was a penalty, wasn't it? Was it a penalty? Did it say penalty?
I think Haaland scored it as well.
I think he did. Beautiful Viking.
All right, so to wrap it up then, I'd just like to finish off by talking about Atletico. As it's become the standard now, the end of the episodes, I'll give a bit of an update. So we had 2 matches since last we spoke. The first one was a friendly on Wednesday. We got invited to ESPN's Wide World of Sports at the Disney complex, just south of Walt Disney World. Oh, it's on Walt Disney World property, just south of Magic Kingdom. And amazing complex. I've been once or twice, but to actually go and actually see it inside, it's more than you can imagine. There's an actual arena, first off, when you get in there. Then there's all different fields. We were on field 22 of the soccer fields, right? There's baseball arenas and there's so much stuff. So we were invited to play a team called Idea Sport, who are part of MLS Next. Now, MLS Next is the league down from the MLS. I've talked about this pyramid that we've got over here where we're a bit further down. MLS Next is the one right below the MLS. So we were invited for an exhibition game against Idea Sport. So turned up for our friendly, and although it was an incredible complex against professional players, so we're amateur, semi-pros, and they are fully professional players. Great complex, great field. There was a fairly big crowd there. It was exciting. However, the referees, it was the normal referees we get for UPSL games, which was disappointing. But there's only so much you can do. So yeah, we started the game really well. Got one up very quickly. Then. We found ourselves 2-0 up against the professional team, playing really well. We were playing compact at the back. Every time they came down the wing, they were cutting. The other team, Idea Sport, were cutting inside, so we blocked them off there, and they just had nowhere to go. And then when we had the ball, we were breaking and we were moving it quickly and efficiently, and it was all going really well. They had one breakaway goal to make it 2-1. So yeah, and then the final they tied it 2-2, and then so we held them to 2-2, and then with just a couple of minutes to go, silly mistake at the back led to another penalty, and yeah, so actually the penalty at the beginning was saved by Ricardo. It was a really good double save. So no, the first one wasn't a penalty, the first goal, that was just an open field goal. It was the last one that was the penalty goal. So we lost 3-2 against a professional team, which is no disgrace. Just a shame that a couple of mistakes let us down, and throwing away a 2-0 lead is always annoying.
Yeah.
We also had a league game just yesterday. Solid game, evenly balanced. We won that one 1-0 with a goal from Marco, our captain and centre back. So we're now back to the top of the table with only 2 games to go. Looks like we've guaranteed ourselves playoffs. And if we can keep this run up, maybe we'll win the league, but we'll see.
Business end.
Yeah, that's the Atletico update for this week.
Amazing. And as always, really love hearing about the Atletico updates. It's good fun. Follow them on social media, Atletico Orlando FC. I learned it.
Mm-hmm. It'll be in the description or the comments for sure.
It will be for sure. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening to the show, watching the show, enjoying the show. We appreciate it so much. Please follow us at Do You Know The Score on all the social media apps that are on X. Please like and subscribe on YouTube, which is the main platform that we put these videos out on. If you can leave comments, shares, little likes, all that sort of stuff, that really helps. It feeds the funky algorithms of the internet and lets people know that we're around. We're on TikTok for shorts as well, so we've got little things and bits and bobs like that. But if you can let people know that we exist, that would be amazing to help. And yeah, it's been really fun today. I've enjoyed getting some stuff off my chest.
I could tell you had fun with that one.
I did. Enjoyed that. You really put 50p in me and let me go.
There you go.
Glory, man, you know.
What a way to finish.